I'm a guinea pig here. They put me to this microphone. They said it was better. Well, let's see if it makes me sound better. I got here at 10 o'clock this morning thinking, oh, nobody will be here. I'll be able to set up and this and that. Half the people were here already. And as I started to set up, I realized the handouts had been collated when I was at Kinko's. And so I had to separate that first page from all the other pages. Next hour is another show. But what I'd like to do is introduce what comparative religion is, slightly introduce what comparative theology is, but then again, I have to, what do you mean by compare? Not to play a presidential slur here, but what do you mean by compare? What do you mean by religion? A lot of those you have to clarify what they are. Both in religious studies and in physics, you have to establish your parameters. You're assuming what? You're assuming you're on Earth? You're assuming that there is gravity? You're assuming that there is a God? You're assuming that he can be known? You're assuming that people really care to hear and read your dissertation? In case you're wondering, all that dissertation title meant is, how does Paul's view of Christ compared to the Jewish view of the Messiah? Got a lot of words. You're going to see a lot of words here, but I'm going to try to walk you through it. Okay. From now on, I'm sorry to turn my back on some people, but regardless of what I'm doing, I'm going to turn my back on some people. Yes, I need a chair. I can't stand that whole time. I bow down to those who are able to. So let's get this ball game rolling. Or not. Oh, there we go. We are live. Can we shut the lights down just a little for me? You don't need to see me. I pretty much tried to show everything that I'm going to say up here. It's bigger. You don't have to ask me to repeat what I said. Also, there are times that I highlighted certain words or phrases. There is no special index of what those mean. Oh, that's a word I like. I highlighted it. Red doesn't mean any more than green. I wanted to separate it because that way you could follow along with me easier. What is comparative religion? Why the heck do we compare religions? Well, we have some religions that are technically the same, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but yet they're so different. One will kill the other. Why are some ferrets look the same as another ferret, but yet they'll fight to the death? Well, in fact, there are some religions that are in the same place, but yet they do such different things. Even those that are Christian. We have Christian A, Christian B, Christian C. They're different. Why? Comparative religion is the study of religions concerned with a systematic comparison of the doctrines, practices, and dogmas of the world's religions. 3 words again there. Doctrines, practices, and dogmas. What do they mean? And notice I put at the bottom, not their theology. This is not comparative theology. Theology is the study of how you came to that idea. It's the process of, well, if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A must equal to C. Now, sometimes your logic is flawed. Sometimes it's stretched in a little bit, which is why a lot of times theology is taught in the philosophy department. It's not what you believe. Philosophy is not, you hear a lot, well, what is your philosophy on this? What is your life philosophy? Well, philosophy doesn't mean what you believe. It means the logical progress of what you mean, of what you believe in. In philosophy, it's the logic of your train of thought. And you hear a lot of people say, "Ooh, that's such a beautiful idea." That the cat is orange? Oh, but it's how we got to it. Okay. Theology begins with the assumption that there is a higher being. Theology. So you start with certain assumptions and then you run with it. Sometimes you run with it out of control. I'm not sure if this thing will go back. Notice that the examples are Jewish halakha, Islamic Sharia law, and Catholic canon law. You can get bachelor's, master's, and PhDs in Catholic canon law. And I've heard it's a lot harder than civil law. To go to law school would be a drop in the bucket compared to getting Catholic canon law. Islamic Sharia law. Well, theology comes from theo, which means God, and ology, which means you're always taught the study of. Biology, the study of life. Well, no, it means a lot more than that. Ology comes from the Greek of logos, which is where we get the phrase logos, logic. Logic. Can you prove that? Empirically. Empiricism means to be able to use the senses to verify something. If you can't see it, touch it, feel it, hold it, smell it, it doesn't exist. And that's how science is. Science is based on empiricism. It doesn't exist unless you can sense it. Well, going from there, you use these ideas to either come up with new ideas, verify old ideas, or debunk old ideas. It's not logical. Eventually, the process of doing theology becomes theology itself. The theology of the Buddhist temple. What does that mean? How do they do? No. It means, what do they believe in? Well, that's not really what it means. It means the process. But like I said at the bottom line there, eventually the process becomes the body of doctrine itself. These are different types of theology. Systematic theology, how they all fit together. All the way down to eschatology, what's going to happen at the end? Well, aren't we told? Not really. We're given clues in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Tripitaka. We're given clues to whet our appetite, to tease us. I don't know. But we're given clues. And from that, we run and say, okay, this is what was going to happen according to my calculations, based on whatever you're basing it on. So again, what is comparative religion? Comparative religion is the branch of the study of religions concerned with the systematic. Systematic, there's another science, logos, logic word. Systematic means to have a system. You're doing this in a special way, not haphazardly, not like, I wonder what would happen if. A lot of times people say science is like that. I wonder what would happen if I, no, it's not what it is. In science, you have an idea what's going to happen. Now, let's try to disprove it. Is it right or is it wrong? That's the scientific method. It's the study of what religions believe, that's their doctrines, and what they do, that's their practices. It's not preaching. You're not going to be saved today. In fact, I'm a little afraid to speak to this group because you're all experts on religion. You've been taught this since you were born. Your mama and daddy said this is the way it is because God loves us. God doesn't love those other people because they're bad. They smoke, they do drugs, they kill Christians. Imagine being in Islamabad and say, no, those people are bad. They worship a guy that was killed on the cross. And they believe that he came back from life. Imagine that. It's not preaching. It's not proselytizing. For those who don't know what that word means, it means getting new members. Hello, wouldn't you like to be like me? That's proselytizing. It's not indoctrination. In doctrine, to teach the doctrines of something. That's the first thing that they do in any college class. Intro 101, Biology 101, Philosophy 101. This is what it is. Well, indoctrination. Indoctrination is what they do to children in Sabbath school, Sunday school. It's to teach them the doctrines of the religion. And it's not theological debate. Well, I think you're stupid because you believe in Sharia law. Well, I think, no. We're not debating here. We're trying to compare. Now, when you compare, this is one of the hardest things to teach to high school students, for example. There's so many words, and eventually you get confused. Again, what is comparative religion? It's the study of the doctrine, the practice, and the dogma. Doctrine, what do they believe? Practice, what do they do? Dogma means I'm going to finish at 10. Why? I said so. Because that's what I'm going to do. It's to say that something is true because you say it's true. It's kind of like the physicist who says, okay, let's assume that we're on Earth. Let's assume that the gravity of Earth has the same consistency all through the planet, which it doesn't. But let's assume it. In physics, let's assume there's no air friction. It works a lot easier that way. And that's how the Newtonian mechanics is taught. Let's make believe we're in a perfect world. Well, but first, what's a religion? Well, a couple of book definitions. A religion is, it's a lot of words. In fact, I'm going to push this before you guys have a chance to read it. What is it really saying? Something about a belief in a worship of a superhuman, supernatural control. Woo. Explains your soul in an afterlife. Okay. Another real definition. This one has 5 parts. Well, it depends what you're talking about. There's 5 ways of looking at it. What does it all mean? Well, it's a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, involving devotional and ritual observances, and it's agreed upon by a number of persons. In fact, the body persons adhering to a particular set of beliefs and practices. That's a religion. What religion are you? Well, I'm of the second pole from the left, outside of the circle religion. Adhering to a particular set of beliefs and No. There's only Catholic, Baptist, and Chinese folk religions. That's all you're given. Okay. A lot of words. But what does it mean? Now, I give this talk to Philosophy 101, Religion 101. This is setting the stage of what the heck are you talking about, Mr. Vargas? Well, what is a religion? According to the Dalai Lama, it's very simple. To be kind. That's my religion. According to Ziggy Marley, love is my religion. All you need is love. Dun, dun, da, da, da. Love makes the world go round. Make love, not war. That's my religion, to love everybody. That sounds really good. Abraham Lincoln, I don't know. When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's religion. Okay? The Buddha, be kind to all creatures. This is the true religion. I'm a good person in most ways, but I'm beginning to think that being a good person in most ways doesn't count for anything very much if you're a bad person in one way. Okay, let's get ready to rumble. What does that mean? Well, The ordinary man says in his ignorance, my religion is the sole religion. My religion is the best. But when his heart is illuminated by the true knowledge, he knows that beyond all the battles of sects and sectaries presides the one, indivisible, eternal, and omnipresent benediction. Words. If the super-religious people follow in the love and acceptance that their religions taught, the world would be a better place. But no, it has to be all about, my religion is better than yours. Well, is this what religion is? To find something you would die for and then live for it? I'm sure you've heard the phrase, anybody can die for something, but can you live for it? Well, if you're so devoted to your religion, is this what you get? Are these things that go hand in hand with religion? A common reaction to religion is, I'm not offended by people believing in God. I'm offended by believers, excuse me, trying to force others to live by the rules of the God they believe in. You can believe whatever you want, just don't make me do it. I hate the idea of religion. It divides so many people and causes wars that cost millions of lives. We need to stop killing each other. We are all human. And of course, I'm sure you've heard, imagine there's no heaven. Jesus Christ superstar. Judas was telling Jesus, your disciples have too much heaven on their minds. All they can think of is, let's go to heaven. We're going to heaven. Oh yeah, let's go to heaven. We're going to heaven. Well, the great philosopher, Gwyneth Paltrow, religion is the cause of the problems in the world. I don't believe in organized religions at all. It's what separates people. One religion just represents fragments. It causes war. More people have died because of religious conflict than any other reason. Religion is to blame. Okay, let me paraphrase it for you now. What does that mean finally? Religion sucks. Why do we ever do it? Is it a flaw in the human genome to have to be religious? It's mean, it's selfish, it's sexist, it's racist, it breaks up families, it causes wars, it makes me cough, demeans women, limits knowledge, and squashes creativity. And I'm sure even in your own life, you can pretty much see an example of history of each one of these things. But don't take it personally. You're not stupid. It wasn't your fault. You had no choice. People most often follow a religion not because of personal revelation or transcendent truths, but because the religion is culturally familiar, taught at an early age, and linked to where and by whom one is raised. Imagine being born in Timbuktu, Africa. What would you believe? Imagine that you were born in Soweto, Berlin, 1943. And what about God? Doesn't a religion have to have a God? I don't know. Is it possible to have a religion without a God? Is it possible to have a God without a religion? Are they tied together? What came first, religions or gods? God did not create religion, God created man. Man created religion. We're getting back to that, well, what is religion then? Religion was created as a tool for the uneducated. Logic would be harder to teach them in order to instill morals in them. So we tell them that if you don't behave, God's going to kill you. You're going to hell. Don't explain it. You're going to hell. So many religions, so many gods. So, were religions created to explain gods, or were gods created to give a reason for having religions? Get it? The chicken and the egg? Get it? So what is religion? She asked the Cheshire Cat, what road do I take? Well, where are you going? I don't know. Then it doesn't matter. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Good question. So what the hell is it? Pardon the pun. What the hell is it? Get it? So confused. Okay, let's take a breather here. Like the first one, like this. Not like the second one. Short breather. Okay, let's get going again. The journey begins. I'd like you to do something right now. Please close your eyes and just work with me here. Close your eyes. Imagine that you fell asleep right here and that you wake up in a field of flowers. You don't know how you got there. You don't know where you are. What's the first thing you think? No, this isn't going to work. Open your eyes, please. Open your eyes again. I want you to follow along with me. So imagine with your eyes open. Okay, you've already gone through that process, but I want you to go back. Imagine that you wake and find yourself in the field all by yourself with no memory, with cows staring at you. Stupid cows, why are you looking at me? What's the first thing that enters your mind? This is what I asked you to do. You think, where am I? How did I get here? Where did I come from? Am I the only one here? And what am I supposed to do here? That's what you're thinking. What's going on? And imagine you saying, and when I'm done, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go then? And who's in charge? Is there another life? Is there more to it? What if there truly is nothing else? This isn't a statement. This is you asking yourself, what if there's nothing else? What if there's no one else? What if no one's in charge? What if this is it? I'm horrified that there's a no afterlife. I'm a Christian, but only because I was born into it. I mean, what if there really is nothing? We just disappear. What's going on? The eternal question. That's what religion is. It's the answers to those questions. Now, sometimes you experience the answer. Sometimes you search through it through books. Sometimes in your seeking, you find somebody who has found the way, and you go to them and say, "Teach me, O Buddha." In fact, just as a side note, Buddha said, if you're going down the road and you meet the Buddha, kill him. No man can be another man's teacher. Each man must find it himself. Sometimes it's an educated decision. You study and you find God. Sometimes you're convinced by another. He's such a good preacher. He could make a book believe that it's a rock. Sometimes you're struck by lightning. If you don't believe, ask my friend Saul or Paul. Paul was hit by lightning. I believe now. That's what religion is. The answers to where am I? Why am I here? How did I get here? And where do I come from? What am I supposed to do? And what happens when I'm done here? What's up for me? That's what religion is. It helps you to formulate a reason for your existence. Well, you're talking about a world philosophy. Well, you can call it whatever you want. I'm calling it a religion. It's what you believe. It's how you run the world. Your religion should give you peace. If you're afraid that you're going to hell, you got the wrong religion. And when I say you've got the wrong religion, you're thinking of religion in different terms than what it should be. And it's your very own. You have your own religion. Do you require gods? Maybe. Gods could be part of your religion. Do gods require religion? Well, sometimes it's easier for God to work through religions. Your religion might help you find God. God might lead you to your religious ideas. Okay, religion. It's whatever you view the world and that you follow religiously. Even though we don't understand the word religion, religiously, we understand that one a little bit more. Religiously means to follow it with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul. But what does that have to do with the religion? Religion is how you view the world. It's what you base your existence on, decide your direction in life, evaluate situations, determine your mindset. It's how you evaluate people and establish your morals and ethics. Religion is what makes you the person you are. Sometimes you find religion yourself, and sometimes it's offered or thrust upon you. This is what you will believe. Okay. Because you are unable or unsure how to search on your own. But it's the answer that gives you directions. Who am I here? Who am I? Why am I here? Where did I come from? What am I supposed to, what's going on? Sometimes you make your religion known to others and you, oh yeah, I'm the same way. Oh yeah, I believe like you. And you join into a group because we believe the same. Well, not totally the same. He likes apples. I don't like apples. But we can live with that. Sometimes you keep your beliefs to yourself and you go it alone. That's what organized religion is. But of course, if you join others in a group, somebody has to say, okay, guys, let's get going. Okay, sit down. Okay, shut up. We have somebody in this group who does that. Somebody has to take care of the bills and get the choir robes ready. And then finally, somebody has to make sure you truly belong in that group, to make sure you're not too turtly for the turtle club. Somebody has to make sure you bring the cookies. That's like the most important part of a church. And just like that, a religious organization is born. This is what organized religion is like. Someone needs to make sure you're following the religion's rules. Clubhouse? Maybe. In some religions, you have to make sure to believe the right things. This is called orthodoxy, which means straight thinking. What you do isn't as important as having faith to believe. You're justified by your faith. Christianity. Some religions you have to do the right things. This is called orthopraxy, which means straight doing. It doesn't matter what you believe. It's what you do or demonstrate what you believe. Examples, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism. But I didn't mean to do that, but you did it. If you don't believe or do the same as others in your religion, you can compromise and say, oh, okay, I can live with that. Or you can try to change their beliefs, but let me explain this to you. Or you can settle, or you can leave. And sometimes they help you to leave. You're persecuted. You're no longer part of our club. Go away. Okay. Sometimes this is what you get when you have an organized religion. You get a lot of things that we don't necessarily, well, that goes back to Miss Paltrow. It's all religion's fault. If there had been no God, there would have been no David Koresh. There would have been no child abuse. Because we know that God causes priests to abuse children. It's all his fault. But sometimes this is what you get. The good parts of it. Okay, what is comparative religion? It's the branch of the study of religions concerned with the systematic comparison of the doctrines, practice, and dogmas of the world's religions. Why are they so different and yet the same? Why do they have such separate beliefs? So many to compare. Where do you all start? How does one compare religions? Before you compare, you must know what you are comparing. And you must have facts or observations about your subject. You must know which objects, characteristics you will compare. Compare and contrast. 10th grade, high schools. State tests coming up. Compare chickens and horses. Horses are big, and that's all they write. You have to give them a 1 out of 5. Oh, you want more? Chickens are white and horses are brown. That's not comparing them. How are they the same? 2 apples? How are they the same or different? Chickens and apples? No. Always compare apples with apples. Okay, let's do an example here. How to compare. First, you need to define your subjects. We're going to define them as cat and aardvark. 2 different things. We're going to compare them. What characteristics are you comparing? The objects. Oh, we're going to compare their color, their feet, their fur, and their teeth. Observe and research some of their characteristics. Well, cat is yellow. Cat has sharp teeth. Cat has 4 legs. You notice I'm not saying the cat is smart. I already established what characteristics I'm going to look for. Color, feet, fur, teeth. And then you determine how they're similar or different, given specific examples. Both the cat and the aardvark have 4 legs. The cat has sharp teeth, but the aardvark has no teeth at all. The cat is yellow, but the aardvark is gray. Okay, and that's it. You don't have to judge. You don't have to evaluate. No choosing, no critiquing. Somebody might ask you, but what's the best religion? Well, they may ask you later, but that's not part of your process. You can do that as a side. Okay, let's rest again. Have you ever been tired? I have. Okay, ready to go again. A way to study. So short is life. How do you categorize religions? Well, one way is to categorize them geographically. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Well, we can't look at the whole world at the same time, but we can make a picture of it. These are where the religions of the world concentrate. You notice the United States is purple. Christianity. That doesn't mean there's no Buddhists here. It means the dominant religion is Christianity. And you kind of get an idea of who's connected here. Look at Australia. They're Christian around the outside, but in the middle, they're nothing. To me, that's a way of saying, we don't know. What do the Aboriginals believe? I don't know. Another way is saying the size and type of their pantheon. Their pantheon means the building that holds the gods. How many gods are there? Is there no God, 1 God, 2 gods, many gods? And again, when you get into it, there's so many words. Deism, monotheism, polytheism, animism. 2 that I really want you to remember here is theism and deism. Theism means that you believe in God and he gives a crap about you. Deism is you believe that there's a God, but he's just sitting up there laughing at you. He's not concerned with the life. You're on your own. I gave you life, now live it. Different ways I can compare religions. In this case, I compare religions by how many people there are in the United States. Subject, religions. Object, how many, what percentage? I can go a little bit further and I can say how many and what percentage. Ooh, notice the subject is the up and down, the left to right is the object. I'm going through these fast because it's not the numbers I'm interested in you noticing, but how they can be compared. We can do multiple religions. We can do multiple objects. The objects on top. The subjects on the left. From there, you can make other charts. A chart is simply a pictorial example of the numbers. Just the numbers, please. Well, numbers are scary. On the right, numbers are scary. But at the left bottom, oh, why didn't you just say so? It's the bigger part of the pie. Here's one that's interesting. How dogmatic are you about religion? Well, I'm the only one. That's the best thing about being a Tigger. I'm the only one. Or you can be a Paris Hilton. I know you want to be like me because I'm the best. Well, notice on here that Protestants believe that 66% that there are many religions that lead to eternal life. Catholic, 79. Mormon, no, you've got to be a Mormon. Jehovah's Witness, really no. If you're not one of us, you're going to hell. Another way is by their size. Okay, let's do it. First, you need to define your subjects. Okay, we're going to address the characteristics of different religions that are still practiced today. That means no Mayans, no Aztecs, no Egyptians. These are the ones, when I was preparing this, that I researched. Whew. It's almost time, and we're not going to get through all of these. These are the ones I've already tossed out because they're old. Oh, shoot, I wanted to learn about Buddhism or Minoan religions, but the athletes jumping over the bulls and all that kind of stuff. And how are you going to what characteristics are you going to look for? Well, we're going to look for these characteristics. Sacred source, that means where did it all come from? Who's supplying the energy to this ball game? Sacred writings, has anybody had anything to say about this before? Sacred time, well, the best example of sacred time is Easter. It's the sacred. Good Friday. Ash Wednesday. Christmas time. It's the reason for the season. Sacred persons. I'll get back to sacred space. Sacred persons. Jesus. Muhammad. The Buddha. Sacred space. This place is sacred. Whatever you say in here stays in here. Well, I guess that would make Las Vegas a sacred place. What happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. Sacred objects, talisman, a pulpit, a cross around your neck. Sacred foods, not just what are good foods, but what are bad foods. Don't eat that or you'll go to hell. That seems to be a constant phrase through all the, don't do that, you go to hell. Sacred actions and ceremonies, bar mitzvah, baptism, sacred ceremonies. Sacred hereafter, and what happens after all of this? These are the things we're going to look for. Again, what does sacred mean? Well, there's a dictionary definition at the bottom. Basically, it means to be set apart for a special purpose. That's my Sunday clothes. I can't wear those today. Those are my going to church shoes. They're sacred. Not to offend you or scare you. Yes, they are sacred. But does that mean that God blessed them? No, it means that they're special. They're set apart for a special thing. And that's it. This is my introduction to comparative religion. But I'll be back. I had no idea how long this was going to take. I thought I'd run over. What timing? Now, especially for the next session, but this session as well, the main reason for the paper that I gave you is that you could circle any things you wanted to ask later. Because the next session, we're going to go fast, and there's a lot of terms, and most of them are foreign, so it's hard to say. So you can circle the ones that we get to. Yes, ma'am.
This is Franca. My question is about animals. Sacred animals seem to feature a lot in a lot of religions, and symbolically even in the Christian religion. So you don't have that on the list.
There are a lot of religions that there's thousands of religions. Which ones do I choose? Well, one of the ones I didn't choose was animism, which believes that God is in everything. Or bioanimism, God is on all living things. That is a part of a lot of religions. The sacred cow, or the sacred aardvark, the sacred dove, symbolizing the Holy Spirit. Animism is usually a part of other religions, but not necessarily a religion on its own.
Okay, this is Bob. Fascinating. I was going to ask you why religions seem to be similar, but let me just follow up on Franca's question. Isn't part of religion trying to explain the powers, I'm talking about early religions especially, the powers of nature and to manage those powers to your own ends? Because all of animism is about the powers that are in these animals and their different qualities, and also, the thunder and the lightning and death. Death is a power that takes us away. Isn't part of that the mastery of the power?
I'm with you for all the beginning parts. What was that? Noah. Who is that? Who's making that noise? What's causing that pain in my heart? Why am I here? Why am I poor? Yes, I'm with you for the first part. Why? What's happening? What is that noise? Why is it that some days I'm happy and some days I'm not? To me, again, that's what religion is. Trying to explain what's going on. Now, the second part, to use it for your own gain. Yes, that happens. But I think that's the misuse of the light side. Come to the dark side. We use it you have dark side witches, white witches. You have dark side Catholic priests. You have white side. Everybody's going to be helped by something. Sometimes the good side helps you, and the bad side helps me. What can I gain from this? In fact, people that are very religious, a lot of times that's all they think. Me, 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 me. Where do I fit into this? How can I gain from it? Why should I do that? What do I get? Too much heaven on their minds. There's one of these slides that I have is going to show what's the most important thing. And I was hearing it on the Catholic radio station that I listen to a lot. And the most important thing is to get to heaven. That's what we're after. Everything else is sideline. How do we get to heaven? When I get to heaven, going to walk with Jesus. When I have a mansion over the hilltop. This life is not real. And there we go again to the Buddhist and the Hindu. This is all just imagination. This is a big chess game that the gods are playing. Now what I'm going to do is try to ingratiate myself to some of the gods so that they cheat for me. I've got an in with it. He likes me better. Sure, he likes Protestants, but he likes me better. God loves all of you. He just doesn't love you as much. Yes, ma'am. Or yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is Irene. I've had a long journey through religion, as you have, obviously. And I just want to say this is well done. I really appreciate it. And I think that I just wanted to ask you, how did you come to all this conclusion? Because a lot of people have a long journey through religion and they're still stuck somewhere.
I have definitely come to some conclusions, not to the conclusion. In science, I have kids measure a rock. How much does that weigh? And they all do it, and they all go through the process. And what they want to know at the end is, okay, what's the right answer? And I said, what do you mean by the right answer? Well, how heavy is that rock? Well, it depends. And that's where I get into a whole nother lecture. What system are you using? How accurate do you want to be? What is your degree of precision? How many degrees of imprecision are you going to use? Which is what physics uses. And law. Empiricism. What do you see? What can you prove? I don't care if you knew that he killed her. Can you prove it with your eyes, nose, taste? Is there a way to irrevocably make a statement that cannot be challenged? Well, sometimes lawyers make a lot of good statements, but they can be challenged, which is why, do you believe that he did it without a hint of doubt? Well, there's always some doubt. Do I have doubts that I'm here? Yes. I have doubts. Last night, I was here speaking to you, realized I didn't have any pants on. And then I woke up. Do I have doubts that this is real? A small part. What if there is no God? Does my system totally fall apart? Church-wise, yes. Comparative religion-wise, no. Because I am detached from the experience. I'm looking and seeing what do they believe. How does that compare to others? I stay away from the question of, well, which one is the right one? Which is what church is all about. Not putting churches down at all. That's the preacher's job. To tell you what you need to believe. Indoctrination. That is his job. That's a parent's job, is to instill ideas into their children. Not like, blacks are bad. Arabs, turban heads. The ideas of, we're all in this together. Cheating is not worth it. Always tell the truth. Always wear clean underwear. Things that your mama taught you.
Sharon, one of the best books I've read on comparative religion was Battle for God by Karen Anderson. Wondered what you thought of that and its accuracy. Thank you.
Excuse me, not only that book, she has about 4 or 5 good books, and I've made sure to read them all. She is a past Catholic nun, so she's been there. Interestingly, all her books are academic. They're looking at the data. What is this saying? She does not proselytize in her books. She never says, see, I found a way, now be like me. Now, to show that you want to be like me, send $25 to this place. And she never does that. I agree with her. I would love to meet her and have lunch with her. I hope she doesn't die before I have a chance. The first part, a lot to digest. You ain't seen nothing yet. Now that I've introduced to you to what we do, let's do some. Well, the first thing in doing this is, what is comparative religion again? It's the study of different religions. This is assuming you had been gone for lunch and now you're back and like, hello students, did you have a good summer vacation? This is where we left off, remember? Why do we study it? These are the religions that I had researched for this. And after a while I realized this is going to take like 6 hours. But I have two 50-minute segments. So I've divided it up into sessions. This is what we're going to study. These are the characteristics of the different religions. Those are the 7 religions that we're going to concentrate on this session. And this is what we're going to look at. Again, what does sacred mean? To be set apart. It's not some religious term that says holy. No, sacred simply means it's set apart. No, those are cookies for when grandma comes. First religion, Zoroastrianism. I've kind of started this on the earliest religions. Going through the internet, you get so many facts, and you get alternate facts, and you get alternate ways of looking at reality. And of course, Zoroastrianism was the first. No, Hindu was the first. No, Egyptian was the first. I took the dominant concession that the internet gives. In fact, most of everything that's up here, I got off the internet. You'll notice there were a lot of slides of posters and stuff. I didn't want anybody thinking these are my words. This is what Stan is teaching. No. This is all from somebody else. Even the sentences, the words, were mostly from what the internet said. I may have changed the tense or something. But Zoroastrianism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions. Key phrase there, oldest. Okay, we mean time-wise. It started first. Monotheistic. Oh, we learned, that was one of those words in the first one. Mono, one. Theistic, one God. It was one of the first religions that believed in one God. Some people debate that no, it was Tutankhamun's father who was the first mono-religionist. In Egypt, he came to power and threw away all the gods and said there's one God. How did he come up with that? I don't know. But Tutankhamun didn't like him, so he threw away all of that religious stuff of his father, which is how Tutanhotep became Tutankhamun. He followed a different god than his father did. For thousands of years, Zoroastrianism was one of the most powerful religions in the world. It was the official religion of Persia. It is now one of the smallest religions. These are the symbols of Zoroastrianism. The main two, the fire, signifying the fire of truth, the fire energy from God, and the wings, and the angels will carry you. Angels will protect you. They believe in one God, Ahura Mazda, which means wise Lord. And let me tell you one of the main complaints I have of studying anything. To be true to what you're studying, you keep the original word. Messiah. Messiah means anointed one. So in Hebrew times, when they spoke of the Messiah, it was the anointed one, the special one. And then Messiah became Christ, because it's simply the Greek interpretation of Messiah. The Greeks had no idea of anointing. Why would somebody pour oil on somebody's head? Why? Well, and the word keeps going and going. Eventually you forget what the word means. Ahura Mazda, to them they were simply saying, yes, wise Lord. And to us it sounded like, oh, Ahura Mazda. Oh, the god must be called Ahura Mazda. Well, that's the original language in our language now. They held to a belief in dualism. two sides, black and white, the good side, the dark side. They believe in cosmic dualism, that there was two, I don't want to say gods, two powers. There was the good power and the bad power. The bad power, Angramenu, tried to mess everything up. He didn't care about destroying people. He wanted to mess everything up. He's the little brother who comes and messes up all the Legos. I was working on that. It's okay. I'll just mess it up. Eventually, Ahura Mazda is going to get sick of it. And he's going to let Angramenu hang himself to show the world that he is bad. Their scriptures is the Avesta, which were supposedly written by Zoroaster. In fact, we have two names. I don't know if the other one came up yet. Zoroaster is the same as Zarathustra. Zoroaster is the Greek form of Zarathustra, which is the Persian form. This is their beliefs. There's a purpose of life. And notice I highlighted in red, just to cut through the words, to work towards achieving the best existence, to achieve abiding happiness. The best existence is the goal of life. Our Zoroastrian creed, good thought, good word, good deed. Think good, speak good, do good. Hinduism. Notice the Nazi symbol on top. Well, the symbol to the left of that is the Sanskrit form of the name of their god, which they signify by Om. So that's the Om sign. There's so many faces of Hinduism. How many types of Hinduism are there? As many types of people there are. They say that Hinduism has 33 million gods, which coincidentally is the population of India. Each one has, everybody knows better. It's kind of what I said at the beginning here. It's hard to talk about this because everybody here has thought about religion. Everybody has their ideas. They may have in their head, I'm not quite finished yet, I'm getting there. Ooh, I'm 70 years old, I better get there a little bit faster. Interestingly, some people at 20 say, I'm done, I'm happy, I can die right now. And of course, we at 70 look at them and say, you're stupid, you don't even know anything, you're just a kid. We poo-poo things we don't understand. Hinduism believes that there is one power, which is why it's interesting to call Hinduism a polytheistic religion, many gods. They believe that there is one power, Brahman. What is that one power? Yes. Where does he live? Yes. Can I see him? Yes. Do I inhale him? Yes. Am I him? Yes. He is everything the universe is. He has no physical form, but yet he's a supreme reality. You want to get into confusing theology and philosophical ideas, Hinduism. So, why do you believe that? And, oh, wow, scary. They believe that there is one supreme reality. What does he look like? Well, you can't see him, but he will take forms. He will corporate, become a corp, become a body. He can do that. His main three emanations, his corporeal self, is made up of these three gods. They're called the Trimurti, the Godhead, if you want to call it. But there's no Jesus, the Father, and the Son, Holy Ghost. There's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. This does the whole work. Brahma creates the world. Vishnu makes sure that it's protected. And then Shiva says, okay, enough of this. Destroy it all. Let's start over. And the cycle continues again, over and over. And there's a number of infinite avatars. An avatar, again, is the physical demonstration of what you can't see. We saw the movie Avatar. You may have seen it, where a power that's within a person is transferred into another body, and the body acts as you. Gamers do this a lot with their games, and Zelda and Mario. They have the characteristics of the person playing. Well, these are all possible gods. The most well-known probably is the elephant god, the monkey god, Shiva. These are the four main ideas in Hinduism: Dharma, Karma, Samsara, and Moksha. Basically what it means is, and I'm going to again use words here just to, what is that saying? You live. And that's your punishment. The goal, to get out of being alive. To get out of this misery. Well, how do you do it? Well, there's the Dharma. Those are the rules, the Bible. This is how you do it. Karma, these are actions of the universe that help you to get to where you want to go. Karma is good. Karma is a teacher. Okay, you're lousy at interpersonal relationships. Let's put you in a position where you have to do that. Let's see, grasshoppers are good for that. So let's make you a grasshopper. Moksha, I finally reached it. I did it. The goal of Hinduism is moksha, a state of perfect understanding of the relationship between Atman, that's the self, and Brahman, between the self and God. Sounds like Pauline theology there, something Paul would say. To become enlightened through good karma and reincarnation. One of the main differences between Christianity and Hinduism, they get a second chance, and a third, and a fourth, and a 2000th. Keep doing it till you get it right. Good job. You're almost there. Maybe another 3 centuries. And samsara. Samsara is the term given to the process of, okay, let's try it again. Okay, let's try it again. Sacred writings. In a minute, I'm going to show you how Hindus separated into 2 different parts of Hinduism, and each one went a different direction, and each one had different scriptures that they followed, yet they obeyed and believed the scriptures of the other. Well, one was called the Shruti. This is what was heard. In other words, we heard the holy man say this. And we have the Smriti. I remember when the God said this. I remember when, what's the exact difference? I'm not quite sure. The one thing I'd like you to notice, especially at the bottom, the Bhagavad Gita. This is probably the book that you will have seen most in the United States. You find it in Goodwills, you find it in thrift shops, you find it in the bookstore. And it's usually said, the Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's because of the way that it's translated. A lot of these religions that we're going to see, they don't like to change the words. So they keep the same words. By translating it, you may pick a different meaning to it. Well, that's what Muslims believe about Christianity. The Bible's been changed. Even though you didn't mean to, by translating, you changed it. So the only official sacred book for Muslims is the Quran in Arabic. Well, these sacred books are in Sanskrit, which is an ancient Indian language. Notice the priests are the only ones who can access religion. A priest by definition, would be somebody who acts as a go-between between you and the higher power. That is a priest. In Judaism, the priest was the one who took your sacrifice and gave it to the god. The Aztec priests, they took your sacrifice of the slave, cut his heart open, and gave it to the gods. These are their sacred writings again. The Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Vedas. Sacred time. They have holidays, religious holidays. It seems like throughout the world, all their holidays are religious. It seems like only in the Western world do we try to separate the religious from the non-religious. You said God, bad. A lot of their festivals are to show how they have mastered their body. So in the top left, you have a man walking through coals. Self-flagellation, they whip themselves with chains with hooks on the end. It doesn't even hurt. I didn't even feel that. Hit me harder. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Top right, just like the running of the bulls, they have a running of the cows, but you don't run, you lay. And you let the cows step on you, I guess. Bottom right, they can put things through their skin and flesh, and it doesn't even bleed. Bottom left, they hook themselves, and it come out okay. A mandir is a temple. It's God's home on earth. The closest I can describe it would be the Jewish temple, where God was in the Holy of Holiest. Most other religions don't hold that. We don't hold that God is in our church. Sometimes somebody will get out of control and say, you're disgracing God by running in the church. God just saw you. Most Western religions don't believe that God lives in your place of worship. They also believe in sacred places. The river Ganges is holy. It is the embodiment of the goddess Ganga. If you swim, if you bathe, if you pray, if you drink the water of the Ganges, it helps you to achieve moksha. Where's salvation in here? There's no salvation here. Salvation means that you're saved. They're not trying to be saved. They're trying to get out of this thing. The pujari are the archaka, Hindu temple priests. Yeah, that's what I expected Hindu temple priests to look like. Imagine a Protestant church priest or pastor looking like this. You'd think that they were homeless, sleeping in the church. Judaism. They believe in God, but they don't say God. In fact, mostly they use what's called a tetragrammaton. Tetra, 4. Grammaton, letters. The 4 letters that represent God. In English, it's YHWH. And then you'll see the Hebrew for that. And even that is kind of like, ooh, you almost said the word God. Okay, you know that guy we're talking about? Him, Hashem. Hashem means the name, the teacher. Oh, the one who speaks in front. Oh, the smelly one. They don't want to say his name, Hashem. There's other words like Adonai, Elohim, Shekinah, Shaddai. One thing I want you to notice is the Elohim, El means God. So yes, there was a god, a bad god in Hebrew times called El, and the Hebrews were worshiping it. El again is like Allah. It's the word for God. They're worshiping God. They're worshiping El, which gives a lot of times people ideas of, there must have been two different people writing the Bible because they can't seem to get their definitions straight. Well, El means God. El Shaddai, God Almighty. Shekinah is the feminine aspect of God. The kindness, the spiritual side. I am God. You will do it because I say so. That's the masculine side of God. The feminine God? Okay, let's try this again. Poor baby. Shekinah, the Shekinah glory. They don't even want to write down the word God. So they write G blank D. That's how they write God. In fact, a lot of times they don't even write that. And the reason for that is you don't want to destroy God. If you wrote G line D on your paper and you said, no, that's not what I meant, and you crumple up the paper and throw it away, you just threw away God. So what do Jews do? Observant Jews, they bury it or burn it. Notice the two different stained glass windows for synagogues, the three letters there, name for God. They believe that God, again, is the absolute one, the power. Very much like Hindus. He is what everything is. Traditional interpretations of Judaism generally emphasize that God, I did it like they did it, is personal yet transcendent. Personal means he cares about what you're going through. Transcendent, he's above it all. Back to the theism and deism words. The Shema. The most important phrase. Are there any Jewish people here? One? Two? The Shema. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God. Adonai is one. Even shorter. Hear, O Israel, our God is one. Shema Israel, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. But it's still just a phrase. Let me walk you through the history of Judaism. We'll try to go fast here because it sets the stage for many of the other Western religions. It started with the beginning with Abraham, and I'll let you read. I'm just going to do the highlights here. He came from what's Iraq area now, and he moved because of famine, and it is believed that he made a covenant with God. A covenant which is a contract that cannot be changed or forsaken. His son Jacob fought with an angel, and his name was changed to Israel, which is where we get Israelites. About 1,000 years later, we have the prophet Moses, who led the Israelites out of slavery. And on his way, God gave him the law, the Ten Commandments. In Mount Sinai, for centuries, Mount Sinai has been right around the separation between Israel and Egypt. There's a lot of research now going on that I think Mount Sinai might be actually down in Saudi Arabia on the other side of the Red Sea. Well, that's science going for you. They believe that God gave them the promised land. Why do you want to live here? God said. Mama said, this is mine. So you have to go. You have a choice. You can go or die. Well, can't we join you? No. Go or die. And in most cases, they died. This was a great bloodshed. But it was okay. God told him. King David has been said he's the greatest king of Israel. He made Jerusalem his capital, which is interesting. Jerusalem had people living in it already, the Jebusites. He went in there and kicked them out. This is my land now. So Jerusalem now became David's capital. His son got to build a temple. David wanted to, but he had shed too much blood. The kingdom fell apart, and 10 of the tribes there was 12 tribes. 10 of the tribes in the north made their own country. They kept the name because there was more of them. So they kept the name Israel, and the southerners took the name Judah, which is where we get Jews. Judah. The Israelites, which were now north, didn't want to be confused with the old Israelites, so they took the phrase Samaritans because the area there was Samaria. So they became the Samaritans. So 10 tribes became the Samaritans, 2 tribes became Judah. Little by little, different countries were invading them and destroying them. The Assyrians attacked the northern kingdom, took them captive, took them away. A while later, they allowed some to go back, but a lot of them we don't know what happened to them, which is why a lot of times they're referred to as the lost 10 tribes of Israel. I've had people say, they still exist. I know a person from the tribe of whatever. Well, yeah, but as a nation, as a group of people, we don't know what happened to them. The lost 10 tribes of Israel. Babylon, the Babylonians attacked southern Judah, destroyed the temple, took them away. Babylon. The name of the country was Babylonia. From the very beginning, there seemed to have been different political parties of Israel, of the Jews, and we already know those words. They're kind of interchangeable. There was the Essenes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Zealots. The Sadducees were the Republicans. And I mean, not bad. They're the rich, the ones in power. They were the priests. They controlled the country. In a theocracy where God ran the country, the priests were the voice of God. So there's a lot of power there. The Pharisees were teachers. The Zealots, they were saying, we got to get rid of Rome any way possible. If we need to, we'll rebel. These were the fighters. The Essenes were the ones who said, you know what, you guys are all full of it. We're going up to the mountains and do our thing. So in Jerusalem, the main 2 powers were the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Essenes were up in the mountains. The Zealots were off doing bad things. Once the temple was destroyed by the Babylonians, and then eventually by the Romans again, there was no temple. Half of what Judaism was gone to bring sacrifice to the temple. As you read in the Old Testament, bring your sacrifice. And there's rules about how the sacrifice should be. Not an imperfect lamb. It has to be perfect. The priest takes it, kills it, cuts the meat up. Some of the meat is given back to the person who brought it. Some of it is given to the poor. Some of it the priest keeps because priests need to eat too. And then some of it is burnt. That was the sacrifice. It's not the percentage of the meat that was given to God. It was the concept of taking something that is sacred to the people and giving it to God. And as you can see, after the temple was gone, there's no reason for priests anymore. There's no place to burn the sacrifice. So what happened to Judaism is it became more of a rabbinate, rabbis, teachers. So the leaders of the Judaism system were the rabbis, Rabboni, Rabbah. Model of the Old Temple, this is a clay model of what it might have looked like. On the right is an aerial picture of the Temple Mount. The last we heard of the Temple Mount is it was destroyed a lot by the Romans. So King Herod rebuilt it. So the first time when it was destroyed, as the Bible says, not a rock was left unturned. It was destroyed. So Herod rebuilt it from scratch. The only thing remaining of Herod's temple is the western wall. This is the western part of the Temple Mount. Jews are allowed to go to the bottom of the Temple Mount to pray and cry, which is why it's called the Wailing Wall. Oh, Israel, what have you done? Bad Israel, bad Israel. And notice that I'm rocking. They tend to do that to keep their prayer synchronized. Notice on the bottom right, they take little slips of paper and put a prayer on it and put it in between the cracks. After Israel was destroyed, the inhabitants were taken captive and forced to relocate. Well, some of them went north to Turkey and the Eastern Europe area. Some of them went west out to the Iberian Peninsula, Spain, Portugal, and some of them went to North Africa. The three types of Jews were the Ashkenazi, the Sephardic, and the Mizrahi. A lot of people think that Yiddish is the Hebrew language. Yiddish is actually German. It's saying Hebrew words in German, kind of like Spanglish, Spanish and English. The Sephardic Jews from Spain had their own language. It's called Ladino, part Latin, part Hebrew. In the last 500 years, the Jewish faith is divided into Orthodox, Reform, and Conservative. Orthodox were the real Jews. And then some people started saying, too many rules. Let's just throw all the rules out. Let's reform this religion. And they went a little too far. So a group said, you know what? There is something to Judaism, but not so many rules. That's the conservative. And now we have coming up the Reconstructionists, which I don't know enough, so I didn't want to discuss them here. There were 613 commandments. A lot of them were, thou shalt, and a lot of them were, thou shalt not. Well, after the temple was destroyed, a lot of those laws were, you can't do them anymore. Take a sheep to the temple, make sure it's unblemished. Well, they didn't exist anymore. Sacred happenings of the Jews, you have the bris. Notice the left top. The correct way to do a bris is to cut the foreskin of the baby with your teeth. So an original Orthodox bris, you can see, I can't remember the name of the person who does that, but he is circumcising the child. Right to the right of it, sometimes it's easier when you're a child instead of when you're an adult. Imagine being 40 years old and having circumcision. That's what that one is. At the bottom, Jewish weddings are specific. They're not like any others. Funerals. Top right, bar mitzvah. Bar means son. Bar is Aramaic. If you wanted to use the Hebrew term, you would use bet. Bar mitzvah, mitzvah, mitzvot, rules. He is now a son of the law, meaning he is now able to keep the law of God. Down at the bottom, you have an old man, and he looks old at his bar mitzvah. So you don't have to be a child. When you convert, you have your bar mitzvah. When they pray, they wear special clothes. They wear the prayer shawl. the prayer cap, and the leather things around their arms. The tefillin, the tallit. I say the yarmulke, but there's another word for it. They put this on when they pray. It's really interesting to watch videos of the Israeli army when they pray, and they put all of this stuff on. And you see these guys with machine guns and this and that, and they have the paraphernalia on. Hebrew scriptures, which we call the Old Testament. Well, they don't use that word, Old Testament. That assumes there's a New Testament, and they don't believe in that. There's the Testament, or the scriptures. It's divided up into 3 sections: the law, the prophets, and the writings. The law is the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, also called the Torah, the law. The Ketuvim is the writings. These are like prose. This is Psalms. When I was a gazelle, I ran through the forest, and that's how I found my God. Those are the writings. Then you have the prophets, the Nevi'im. So between the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, they put it together into the Tanakh. The Tanakh is their scriptures. In the beginning, when there was Abraham and everybody else, they spoke word to word. So Abraham sat down his children and said, okay, this is what my history is. This is where you're going. And Jacob would sit down with his, this is where my history is, and this is where you're going. Well, eventually, like we saw, with Moses at the Mount Sinai, he received the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. Eventually, the 5 books of the scriptures were put together. That's the Torah, the law. The Pentateuch is just another name. There's 5 books, the Pentateuch. The Tanakh we just talked about. What does it all mean? Well, that's where Jewish rabbis got together and tried to explain the Bible, commentary. That's what the Mishnah is. And for the common man, even that was confusing. That's where the Gemara came out. Now, just as an example, the Torah might say, thou shalt not kill. What does that mean? Well, the Mishnah says, don't take somebody out with a knife and make them lay down in front of you. Specific. Don't put somebody in front of your car with the car running. Don't, specific. What does that mean? And the Gemara says, and don't put the knife to his throat and slice it. Specifics. God didn't write this. They don't believe God wrote this. Rabbis wrote this. Jewish holidays, for lack of time, I'm just going to let you see those. Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah, Hanukkah, and Shabbat. When I was teaching in LA, I had a lot of Jewish students. In some sections of the city, you have a lot of Asian students in physics. Well, down there, I had a lot of Jewish students in physics. They were actually the richer kids. Come October, end of September, we'd have holidays, high holidays, and they were gone. It's just the way it was. Sabbath, Shabbat. This is meaning rest or take a breather. Let's have a Sabbath. Let's have a rest. Well, not only did we have a Sabbath day, or did they have a Sabbath day, they even had a Sabbath year. Every 7 years, you had what was called the Jubilee year. In that year, all debts were forgiven. All land that had been taken away from debtors was returned to them. Let's start off. Reset. We also have Shabbat in witchcraft. They have their own special day. I'm not sure why they took the word Shabbat, but they did. Shabbat, Sabbath, especially begins at even to even, evening to evening. They also have sacred foods, foods that we're allowed to eat. Well, this concept is called kashrut, kosher in English. What is kosher? Kosher means it is allowable. So there are kosher actions, kosher jobs. As far as kosher meat, there were certain meats that could be eaten, but those meats had to be killed a certain way. As I get tired here, I'm starting to not be able to access words. The opposite of kosher is treif. It's not kosher. So there's kosher and treif, clean and unclean. Who said that? Well, God said that. Interestingly, if you talk to a Jew now or a Jewish rabbi, they said this was not for the whole world. This is for Jews. This is a special symbol between Jews and their God. It is not expected that non-Jews do this. In fact, they had a law called the Noahic law, Noah. This is what a proselyte has to do. This is what a new Jew has to do. And of all the rules of the Jews, there was only stuff like you cannot eat meat sacrificed to gods, you cannot drink blood, you must keep the Sabbath. But none of these health laws were part of it. It still exists now. On the top right, you see all the different companies that are kosher certifiers. You'll notice the Heinz ketchup, there's a little U circle there. That means it's been inspected by a kosher company. What these kosher companies are rabbis who moonlight in a company that makes sure the food is kosher. So you have a factory of chicken livers, and there's a rabbi that makes sure the birds are killed respectively, that they are washed correctly, they are used correctly. As far as heaven and hell, they believe in olam haba, the life to come. The interesting thing here is, look at the bottom left, Gehenna. Gehenna has been translated to mean hell. What Gehenna was a field in ancient Israel where the kings would take their newborn children and sacrifice them. It was common for the Jewish kings to sacrifice their children, which is one of the reasons that there had to be a transformation of Israel and clean up your act and stop doing all these things. Even later, it was a place where dead bodies were taken to be burnt. Well, yeah, we need that. Somebody tried to destroy Jerusalem. We destroyed them. What do we do with all the bodies? Well, they didn't bury them. They burnt them. They took them to the field of Gehenna to utterly burn them. You don't come back and see any part to it. The word for utterly burn, to destroy, is called Holocaust. That means to totally destroy. Well, Holocaust also has the connotation of being a sacrifice. They gave their life to this. Now, how they came to that, I don't know. So what Jews prefer is, instead of calling it the Jewish Holocaust of World War II, they call it the Shoah. Sheol, Hades, these are places in the ground where all dead people went. Everybody. And then they were sorted out. What kind of Jew are you? Everybody's a Jew. So look at the top. Of all the different types of Jews, Christian, then there was two types. There was the Jerusalem Jews, then the Pauline Jews, and we went down, all the way down, and all the way down to the bottom. What kind of Jew are you? Buddhism, and I think this is the last one I'll be able to go through. A lot of people, started by Siddhartha Gautama. I'm sure you've heard of this because it's in public school readings. There was a prince, and his father loved him. And he said, I don't want you to see the bad things of the world. So he kept him ensconced in the temple, the palace, not to see any bad things. Looking out the window, he saw a poor, old, ragged beggar. He said, you know what, there's more than I'm seeing here. So he ran away. And he ran away and he started looking for ways to explain life. What is the purpose of life? And at the bottom right, he chose to stop eating. He sat under a Bodhi tree and just, I'm not going to eat until I find the answer. And then he found the answer and everything was good, which is where we get the laughing Buddha. There are many Buddhas. Buddha simply means the enlightened one. I'm going to go through this fast just because these are the main words in Buddhism. How do you remember them all? Okay, here I'm helping you. Samsara is life. That's the one where, okay, here we are. Well, what are we doing? We're living. Well, what do we do next? We die. And then you come back and do it again. Karma, this is what you have to do to get out of life. Dharma, these are the pathways of how do you get, this is doctrine. Moksha, you finally got it right. Nirvana, you're in the good place. But nirvana is not the end. The end is to become one with the gods, which is interesting because Buddhism doesn't really believe in gods. Bodhisattva, these are people that were there. They were in nirvana. They were ready to go in the gate, and they looked back and they had pity on their fellow men. And they came back and said, you know what, I'll help you guys. I'll help you to become Buddha. These are the three dharma, the three rules of Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the origin of suffering, cessation of suffering, the path to cessation of suffering. In other words, the dukkha, life sucks, and it's painful. The truth, all because you desire, all because of selfishness. Nirodha, but there is a way, young Luke Skywalker. There is a way to remove yourself from this. And then Magga, just follow the Eightfold Path. What is the Eightfold Path? Right understanding. The 5 precepts, if you want to become even more of a Buddhist, there are things that you can do to train. This is what a Buddhist monk would do. They have the Pali Canon, which is their Tripitaka, their scriptures. Sorry for going through these quickly. There are 2 types of Buddhists. Actually, there's 3. There's the Mahayana, there's the Vajrayana, and there's the Theravada. These are their sacred texts. Prayer. They tend to pray for 2 reasons: to ask for gifts from the gods and to praise the gods. You can just sit there, oh, Heavenly Father, but most of them follow a pattern. So a lot of times they'll write down their prayer and repeat it over and over and over. In fact, you can go to the store and buy flags that have prayers and put them in these strings where the prayers float in the wind, and they're set. They're printed at the factory. At the bottom, right, you have the prayer wheels, which is the same thing. They have prayers written on each of those. By making those wheels spin, you are praying. At the bottom center, you have a handheld prayer wheel. And with 5 minutes left, Christianity and Islam were the ones that were left wanting. Come back next year. Questions?
Gretchen, thank you this has been enlightening. And you put so much work into it, and we barely touched Buddhism, and we haven't touched Christianity and Islam. Could we beg you to finish this sometime sooner than next year?
When I was asked to possibly present something, the lady who asked me, because I'd really like to find out about Hinduism. And then I was asked by another person, or reminded, you're going to present something? Because we'd really like to hear about, well, as I got doing this, I ended up, like I said, with about 6 hours worth of stuff. And I offered to have another session. And I believe that they were thinking like, you may be a little weird. Let's wait until you present one time. What if you're on loss and then we have you coming out again? So yeah, I'd love to. In fact, this time it would be easier because I've already got it done. I assumed that I would be able to talk faster than I did. Questions?
Okay, this is Mika. I was just confused about Buddhism. I thought they didn't really have a belief in gods, and then you said their prayer is to the gods. So can you...
Again, there are 3 types of Buddhists. The Theravada Buddhists, which are more traditional, went down towards Sri Lanka, down to Thailand and Vietnam. They don't believe in a god. There is still possibly a higher power. You have the Anayana that go up to the north. They went to Pakistan, China, up to that area. They believe that there are powers and that the older people, the ancestors, could help them in their way. Eventually, those ancestors almost took the power of God. They were gods. They were people. Again, there's a loaded word there, God. They were beings that were able to help you. So you had to communicate with them clearly, which is why a lot of times they were written prayers, so you didn't mess it up. Help me with like, you know that girl I like, and none of that stuff. You want our Father, which art in heaven, which are set prayers. There are set prayers in Judaism, set prayers in Buddhism. There are set prayers in Christianity, especially in Catholicism. Read this prayer. Islam, recite. And they recite their Bible. We didn't get to do that one either, Islam. That's an interesting one. But, I'm an old person. I forgot the question.